Hey, what's up, people? Thank you for tuning in today in Heaven with Vida. I'm your host, Vida Guerra. Today, I have a special guest, my friend Dale. He's in today. He loves the topic. Say hi.
Hey, how you guys doing from sunny Hollywood, California?
Today, it was like a heat wave over here. So I have a special guest on the phone. I've been following her. I love her post and what she's all about. She is a survivor and educator. So whenever you're looking for healing, make sure that the person has gone through what you've gone through and has been able to heal themselves in order for you to heal yourself. She's a narcissist, abuse recovery coach, a badass broad coaching coach. Welcome on the show, Trish.
Hi, Vida. Thank you for having me today.
So this topic is very important, and I think a lot of people don't really know the characteristics, but they don't know the label behind it. So let's get started with that. What is a narcissist?
Well, there's two different versions of narcissists, and there's what society is throwing around so casually right now with people who are posting selfies and really self-absorbed. That's narcissistic behavior, but there's a difference between narcissist and narcissistic personality disorder. And those who have the personality disorder, they're really not taking selfies. These with the personality disorder have actually suffered some kind of trauma in their childhood that has impaired the part of their brain that processes emotion, such as remorse and guilt and empathy and compassion and love. And it also doesn't have the ability to self-reflect. So someone with just narcissism has, without suffering narcissistic personality disorder, has the ability to self-reflect and see where they may have done wrong unto another person in their life, or where their behaviors need improvement, where they can actually heal. Someone with NPD is not capable of healing that disorder. It falls under the same personality disorders as sociopaths and psychopaths.
Wow.
And that's the cluster B personality disorder. So these, although some people believe that they can be treated, I don't believe personally myself that they can be treated, but they cannot be cured. And there are some really well-known narcissists out there who have NPD that actually speak into this.
Wow.
So there's the difference, a little bit of a difference between narcissism in our cultural society today and what is actually a personality disorder.
So when you say a personality disorder, they're just not accepting how they are, or they're just like totally disconnected from who they really are, and they think that they're someone else.
Yeah, so they actually have no real sense of who they are because they're attached still to that trauma that happened in their life, usually in early childhood development, where the trauma happened. So it's usually around some kind of abuse. It's a combination of things. So there's an abusive situation in the home. They're witnessing it. So it's environmental. And then you've got parents who also nurture the narcissistic aspect of things into that childhood. So at this stage of their life, you're really unable to see, they're unable to see that there's anything wrong with them at all. They don't have that awareness, that self-awareness. So for a narcissist, someone with NPD, to actually be cured, they have to have that self-awareness, which they don't have.
So that's the key thing. So
yes.
You're saying that they if a person's a narcissist, they won't have that key factor where they're aware, right? Their awareness of that they are being like that, and then be able to change.
Right. So they don't see anything wrong with their behaviors. So if they don't see anything wrong with them, there's nothing to change. They project a lot of fault onto everyone else around them. So everything is somebody else's fault. You know, everything that's going on in the world is the politician's fault, or it's, crappy people out there who aren't contributing to society, or the simple fact that someone with NPD could stub their toe and it would be your fault that they stubbed their toe.
Yeah. That has happened in a club where you accidentally step on someone and like you purposely, you were just at the right moment where you just hey, I see this foot and I just want to step on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. So, okay, so how did you get into all this? Like, what were you? When did your awakening happen?
Well, the awakening didn't happen until later into a very abusive relationship that I was involved in. And at that point in my life, when I met the narcissist, I was at a very low point financially, spiritually, emotionally. Like, I was completely bankrupt in every capacity.
Mm-hmm. And that's usually when it happens too.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like they can feed off that energy. They know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
They're
continue.
looking for people like you, right?
Yeah.
So I had met him at this point, and I was just needing to feel something in my life, and I ended up getting involved with this guy. And at the very beginning, he was already triangulating me with a bunch of other women. So triangulation is when a narcissist will use somebody else to make you jealous.
Yes.
So that you kind of step up your game, and then they just keep on feeding into, like, everybody keeps feeding into the energy that the narcissist has a craving for, because they don't actually feel love toward anybody. They just look at who can provide them with narcissistic supply. Everyone is an energetic supply for them. And the moment that you no longer provide that supply, they're not interested. So when they triangulate you with someone, it's whoever keeps stepping up their game that they end up choosing, because then they know that that person will always keep doing what they want them to do.
Yeah. So this is like a continuous cycle that they just go from one person to the next person. So if like one person wakes up and makes the realization like this person is this way and they're not changing and I can't do anything to make them change, then they're just gonna go, okay, well I'm done feeding from this host and now I'm going on to the next host to feed from.
And that's what a narcissist does, yes.
Wow.
So how I got involved with the narcissist, there was that triangulation at the beginning, and so the triangulation happens. There's also an idealization stage, and this is where someone who's an empath or an empathetic really falls for the narcissist, because the narc will put you on a pedestal, and they'll mirror all of the things that you love about your life so that you feel connected to them. And some empathetics will confuse this with a soulmate. And so when you're being idealized by the narc, you're feeling good, you're falling in love, and everything feels amazing. And slowly but surely, bit by bit, they start to isolate you from your friends because they want to monopolize all your time. So even if you're out, even if you're not with them and you're out with friends and family, they'll continuously text you so that you feel connected to them while you're not with them. And then, of course, this continues to build within inside yourself. And then the devaluation stage starts, where they start to, everything that they say they fell in love with is everything that they loathe about you. So at the beginning, they give,
and take.
Yeah. So at the beginning, for example, you may be so sensitive to them that you can see their childhood wounds and you just want to love them better. And they love that you're paying attention to them. But then all of a sudden, that same sensitivity becomes an issue for them because you're so sensitive. You take everything so personally.
Wow.
So what happens?
I'm like, I feel like I've met a lot of people like that.
Oh, yeah, we're surrounded.
Wow.
But what happens is there's an actual chemical response that starts to happen within your body. And you become addicted to the narcissist supply, what they're bringing to the drama to the relationship. So what happens is when they start to love bomb you in that idealization stage where you're incredible, you're amazing, you're the most amazing person on the planet that they've ever met, and then all of a sudden you'll catch them gaslighting you. They'll gaslight you and say, I never said that. Or you'll catch them in a lie and they'll make it your fault. And this is where the crazy making comes in, is that they're turning everything around on you so that you begin to doubt your own sanity. And the chemical reaction that happens here is called what this is forming is called the trauma bond. So with the gaslighting and the love bombing, there's a chemical response within our body where our adrenaline starts to rush. So we're in that gaslighting, they're attacking us, our adrenaline is pumping, and then the love bombing comes in to create that dopamine and that serotonin, that calming state. It's like a junkie with a needle. So it's like you're always chasing that high. And this is why it's so difficult for survivors when they leave the narcissist, because there's an actual biochemical response within your body that is seeking that adrenaline rush and then the reward system.
Yeah.
So after you leave the narcissist, you've got to find a healthier way to replace that and to break that addiction. And this is where no contact comes in.
And so I know this, like when a child is conceived and they're in the womb, they're already between that time and the time that they're 7 years old, whatever happens to them at that time is how they turn out to be as humans. And it's not until they decide to do inner work that they realize, their child is wounded and they're reacting from that state. So someone that didn't experience this but attracted that type of person, do you think that this happens to people like when they're like in a lower state of a vibration or energy, or they're just kind of like how you were saying, you were bankrupt in all aspects of life and you were being vulnerable, right? And you just wanted something and you attracted that person into your life because of that state that you were being in?
I think it's a twofold thing. We all have childhood trauma. And the question has been posed, well, if we all have childhood trauma, or we've all been in abusive situations, or, why is it that somebody grows up a narcissist and someone doesn't? Well, that trauma, the difference between the trauma is also the environment that you're in, right? Some parents are very protective over their children, even though they're seeing the trauma, and other ones just seem to exacerbate the issue, which kind of increases the trauma, keeps re-traumatizing the child, creating the narcissistic personality disorder. So when those who have not been so deeply traumatized mature and they're at their lowest point ever, there's still wounds. There's still those soul wounds that need to be healed. Otherwise, how can I get to such a place of bankruptcy in every way? Like financial bankruptcy, spiritual bankruptcy, all those things I said earlier. Well, because I never healed the wounds. This isn't the first narcissist I've ever been with. There was another narc before him, but was a little more covert. And then when I started doing the inner healing and started going backwards, the first narcissist in my life was my father.
Wow.
And our parents are the first model of love from the opposite sex.
Yeah. So I know I hear this so many times that like how a father loves their daughter is kind of like what they equate love to. So if that's the kind of love you got, then that's what you think is normal and it's comfortable for you.
Right. My father didn't set the bar very high. So it didn't take much for men to enter into my life and take advantage of me. The difference is that I'm in a place with all that healing now, because I speak into this in my own life, that there's what we attract and then there's what we allow. So at that point, when I let the ultimate narcissist into my life, I allowed it all. I had no boundaries. I had no self-respect or self-love. I didn't even know what those things meant. So the narc came in and was able to penetrate every area of my life and take full control.
And then
they deplete
how long did it take you to like realize like this isn't working for me?
So multiple times. Statistically, someone will return to their abuser 7 times before they realize that this is abuse or before the ultimate end happens.
Wow.
I went back 5 times. And I was at a point a year ago where I couldn't handle it anymore, and I was extremely depressed, and I was contemplating ending my life. And it was my dog actually who woke me from the state that I was in, and it was like, no, I've got to go, because if I stayed in that relationship, it was going to be the death of me one way or another.
Either through him or through your own.
Exactly. That's where I was at when I said, okay, I got to fight to stay alive so that I can get out of this. And it wasn't until 6 months after that I actually left.
Wow. So then you finally like made the decision, and then it took you 6 months to like really get yourself to, the courage. Because I mean,
it's not just courage. There is definitely a lot of fear there, because the narcissist keeps you in that place of fear. What actually happens to people who are under psychological abuse influence is it damages. You can damage your brain. Yeah. So all of that psychological abuse and the gaslighting and all that stuff that leaves you questioning everything causes shrinkage, atrophy in your hippocampus where your memory is stored.
Wow.
So I've been a writer all my life, and I couldn't piece together a simple sentence. So if I couldn't piece together a simple sentence, how could I function out in the world? I was a writer and someone in the entertainment industry, bringing in events and as a promoter, and I couldn't even function. I fell from grace, where I was a successful businesswoman, professional out in the world, to someone who couldn't even think or write. And I was waitressing in a little dive bar on our Skid Row and trying to make ends meet. So this is what happens when you're in that. It's not just the psychological abuse. It is a full spectrum abuse that happens with a narcissist. And there's just various degrees of what they do. It's psychological, emotional, physical, sexual abuse, and financial abuse. So the main reason a lot of people don't leave isn't just the fear. It's they have no financial resources, because the narcissist manipulates funds so that you don't have anything. So
you become dependent on just them, right?
Completely, because then they have control. Wow. And that's what it is with the narcissist, is to have full and complete control.
So they can control you however they want. So like for people that are out there listening, because I'm sure people are in relationships like this and they don't even realize they're in it, because, you have experienced that. I've experienced that. Yeah. And so like, what are like the telltale signs that people can start looking out to start, putting the puzzles together as like, this is not working and this is just not right?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is take off your rose-colored glasses, because if you're wearing rose-colored glasses, a red flag waving in your face is just going to look like a flag. You're not going to see the difference. So you've got to be able to really pay attention and trust your intuition, because every single person I have talked to has said, oh, I felt that was wrong at the beginning. And I gave them a free pass. So you've got to trust your gut. You've got to trust what your body's telling you. Yeah. Our bodies will speak to us energetically.
And people just think like maybe this person can change, or maybe I can be the one that makes this person change, or maybe, they have so much compassion towards the person, like, oh, let me just help this person, and, sooner or later they'll wake up. But that's not the case when you're dealing with a personality like this. It's something that's deeper, more than anyone can handle. Like, they really need to see a therapist if they can even get out of that, right?
Well, the only one that's capable of healing is the person who's not a narcissist.
Okay.
Because remember, the narc doesn't have that ability to self-reflect. They don't have that self-awareness. They don't feel guilt or remorse. They don't have empathy. So in order to heal, you need to have all of those things, particularly self-awareness. So if you're feeling at the beginning of the relationship that, you're going to become isolated, they want to monopolize all your time. They start to really give you that self-inflation. They really make you feel good. Any good relationship, anyone who is healthy, doesn't really need to pump somebody else's tires in order to feel validated in their own life. So, things move really fast when you're with a narcissist. You started dating, and next week you've moved in, and next month you're getting married.
Yeah.
Or they'll future fake and tell you that they want to marry you. They want to spend the rest of their lives with you. And they'll give you empty promises just so that you stay around. So you've got to look for the future faking. You've got to look for the way that they're idealizing you, and how if you're out with friends or with family and you're away from them, if they're constantly blowing up your phone, there's another red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And really pay attention to how they treat other people and who they are behind closed doors, because they're always two different people.
Yeah. It's like, it's so interesting, because when you first date someone, it's like they give you the representative, right? And then after a while, you're like, wait, this is not the same person that I started dating. And that's one of the signs for me that has been for my past, that's one of the signs for me, because it's like night and day, and you're like, wait, I don't understand.
Well, because it's very insidious. It weaves its way in over time. The narcissist isn't going to start abusing you right off the bat, because they want to make sure that they've got you hooked in first.
Yeah, they have to get that trust from you, that they love you so much and you're the world to them.
Well, and this is why so many people ask me, well, why didn't you leave? And I said, because I didn't know it was abuse. When you're being love bombed like that, and it, because as empathetics, we always have a tendency to look for the good in others.
Yes.
So when somebody's being really good to us, we dismiss all of the ways that they've been crappy to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we focus on the good. So this is also the trauma bond that happens, is they keep you connected that way with that love bombing. So it's really hard to tell at the beginning of a relationship, if you've never been in one with a narcissist before, if you've never been to a place of abuse with a narcissist where it has completely altered who you are, your awareness isn't really there, because your innocence is still there.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, because the only way to see somebody for who they are is to have that innocence taken away. Otherwise, we continue to give everyone a free pass and continue looking for the good in people.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you figure out that this is abuse, you're in so deep that you don't know how you're going to get out.
Wow.
And education and awareness isn't enough. You need to heal the aspects of yourself that brought you guys together in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So like that's the point. Like if a person is feeling really down and they're just, things are not going right for them, their goal, instead of getting into a relationship with someone, because 9 out of 10 times they're probably going to attract that type of person, they should just focus on working on themselves and a lot of self-love, so they can vibrate at a higher frequency and attract a right counterpart towards them, instead of where they're completely just low and at a low frequency, and then it's like a little light, and then they know, okay, that person has the light on, let me go over there and just let me suck all their energy up.
Well, here's the thing. We're all, empathetics are really all big, beautiful lights, and they attract even moths, So you're always going to attract things. It just becomes about what you begin to accept and allow.
Yeah.
So if you heal those parts of yourself, and listen, there's all this talk out there these days about self-love. Mm-hmm. What is that even? So many people are beginning to believe that self-love is about, if I take this selfie of me out at the gym, well, that's self-love. It's not. It's just a form of narcissism, of society's version of narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
But when you heal, when you get really down and dirty in the healing, it shifts everything for you energetically, because self-love becomes about, and self-care is really about making hard decisions for yourself that feel like you've got to push yourself to do them.
Yeah.
for example, like going no contact. Nobody wants to go no contact. Everybody's always addicted to the narcissist after they leave. They want to make sure that they're okay. They want to make sure that they still have access to them.
Or they're checking on them on social media. Let me see what they're doing. And are they thinking about me?
You know what? True self-care and true no contact means shutting down all roads and avenues that lead to you. Mm-hmm. It's not about ignoring their phone calls or blocking them on social media and then unblocking and creeping their accounts. It's about making sure that that narcissist has no access to you.
Yeah.
So that's social media, that's blocking, and if they find a way to get through to you with a new number or a texting app, block, delete, repeat. That is true self-care. Block, delete, repeat. It's one of my mantras.
Dude, you should make a shirt like that. That is perfect. I love it.
I have shirts in the works.
Yes, do it.
But I've got a meme out there that's block, delete, repeat, because no contact really is a practice in doing that, because the narcs are always going to find a way to reach you.
Yeah.
Your job is to make sure that you stay true to you. Mm-hmm. That's true self-care.
Yes. Yeah, self-love is not like doing a bubble bath with candles and having a glass of wine. No, self-love is really like seeing why you need that type of person. Self-love is being able to be like, you know what? I'm okay by myself. And that's okay. Not
the baths and the wine and the candles, that's pampering.
Yeah, that's pampering.
Yeah.
And no, but you see it so much on social media, like, oh, self-care Saturdays or Sundays or whatever, and they're like in a bathtub with candles and stuff. Yeah, that's cool. That feels good. Yeah. That's nice. But like getting deep down and seeing first why you're attracting this type of behavior, why you're allowing this type of behavior. What is it that you need to help? I mean, I've been on a spiritual journey since 2007, and I've been, it's a work in progress, and attracting certain people into my life, and then it's, I learn really quick. I'm good, right, Dale? You would know this, right?
Quick learner.
I'm a quick learner. I'm like, no. But still, like, why do I have to learn? Like, why do I even have to go there? Like, why can't I just be like, no, this is not for me. This is the representative, and this is really not how they are. And, this just doesn't fly for me.
Well, here's a little thing, too. I use it when I'm talking with clients, but, even when we level up, we're still going to attract the contrast of what we are. Mm-hmm. So it's all going to be about contrast. So we're still going to attract narcissists, but we're just not going to be paying attention to them because we've done the inner work. And it's not for the weak or the feeble. This work is heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. It's like when you go to the gym. I've seen your photos. You're a fitness buff. Mm-hmm. You go to the gym. You work hard to attain that physique. Mm-hmm. And you lift a lot of heavy weights to get there, and you push yourself beyond your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And you've got to get up when you don't want to get up, and you've got to do things that you don't want to do or that are out of the norm for yourself. This is the same thing when it comes to healing. You can't keep repeating the same behaviors and think that things are going to change. The only way you're going to change your entire life is to create new pathways in your brain that are the exact opposite of everything you've ever known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you see yourself going into a pattern of what you always do and reacting a certain way, that's just a pattern, and it's not you. And a person needs to resolve that within themselves to be able to overcome that. Because I feel like when you do heal those things, you attract those people, but they come and go. Like they don't have any, it doesn't stick. You know what I'm saying? Like, like when pasta's almost getting ready to be done, you can test it by like throwing it in the wall and see if it sticks. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same way, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Food analogy.
I haven't done that in a long time. But yeah, the analogies are right. It's really, every time we level up, there's going to be something on the contrast that comes around and tests our level.
Yeah.
Gives us a little test to see what we're allowing and what we're accepting. There's just as many empaths and empathetics out there as there are narcissists and those with MPD and psychopaths and sociopaths. There's just as many. But all of this focus now is coming onto narcissists because there's an actual name and a label that you can give to this abuse, where it just used to be domestic abuse. And if they didn't hit you, then it wasn't abuse. Mm-hmm. There's still that in our society now when it comes to the legal system, that you still need to have proof.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, so if a person has been dealing with a person that has just been narcissist and they've been doing a lot of mental abuse for many, many, many years, where now the person's just like completely helpless and they just don't even know how to function. They can't even be present in the moment. I know someone like this. And it's just because of all the abuse and they just allow. And like, how does a person, like, can that person press charges? Can that person, is there any like legal protection for people that are dealing with this?
Not yet at this point. So what's happened is the UK has recognized that this kind of abuse is abuse. And, but it still has a long way to go as far as implementing any kind of legal reinforcement or, sending these guys to jail or being able to charge them. The best thing, and this is the best advice I can give to anyone who's out there and is enduring this abuse right now, is to keep a journal. Keep a video journal on your phone if you can record stuff on the voice recorder. Write a paper journal, or a computerized journal. You've got to keep a journal. You've got to document all the stuff that's going on as it happens, because our memory fails us. Mm-hmm. Our hippocampus shrinks, and that part that holds onto our memory fails us. And then a memory isn't enough if you ever end up in the legal system. Yeah. I have clients who are on that spectrum that you just spoke of. Mm-hmm. And I have clients I actually had her as a guest on my live last Monday. She had 47 attempts made on her life.
Wow.
By the narcissist, and she had every single one of them on her phone. Yeah. So it's really hard to avoid those kinds of charges if you have proof. Proof is everything at this stage of the game. Mm-hmm. When you're with a narcissist, you have to have as much documentation as you can.
Yeah. And, it's so interesting because I've been watching a show on HBO. It's called Big Little Lies. And have you seen it? So you see Nicole Kidman's character, how she was dealing with this abuse, and she really didn't tell anyone. Like, her best friends didn't know that was going on. And she finally went to the therapist, and she told the therapist what was going on. And she was saying, like, does anybody else know, like, if something were to happen? And then, she was trying to prove herself in court, and the guy's mother was, like, trying to get custody of her kids. And so she didn't have any proof until, did you see the season finale?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she had the proof there. Her son was the one that actually videotaped her getting abused, and I think that was the turning point for her in her case to be able to get
definitely.
But like for her, see, this is a fictional character, but still it's based upon someone that this really happened to, and it's so interesting.
Very real event.
Yeah, I was having a meeting with Dale because, he's a director and writer, and I was like, and producer, and I was like, you know what, we need to do a movie like this, in this type of concept, because if people see it in a movie, people are, they love movies and stuff, and they start to see it and plan to see, like, wait, this probably isn't right, what I'm living, because sometimes you can tell someone till you're blue in the face and they just won't get it. And sometimes in a form through entertainment, they do. But so she was you know, they would have this fight, and then they would have this really intimate moment where they would, you know, have sex, and that's what, you know, his mother was claiming.
That's the addiction.
Yeah, that's the addiction. So let me maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, I actually have a little bit of a story. I want to turn this into a Netflix special. So there was the woman before me, and she was only with the narc for a couple of years, and she didn't really understand that what she was experiencing was abuse either, because there was a lot of sexual addiction in there, exploitation, you know, where the narcissist will use their supply to get what they want sexually from other people. And that was happening to her, and it was also happening to me. But he had managed to hoover her back in unbeknownst to me, and I discovered that this was going down. And I had already been through the severe sexual abuse aspect of it. And here I am reaching out to this woman and telling her that I know he's seeing both of us at the same time. So we had this, you know, but what happens is that these narcissists build the X's up so that, you know, you've got to try and attain this level that they're at. And so, of course, you keep pushing yourself. I mean, I'd never used drugs in my life since I was 15 years old. The worst thing I ever did was smoke a joint. Next thing you know, I'm doing ecstasy every weekend, getting drunk every weekend, because he's threatening that if I don't do what he wants to do, he's going to expose all of my photos. He had actually put all of our intimate photos on a pornographic amateur porn site and was threatening to send them to my boss and to my mother if I didn't do what he wanted. So
See,
it's not.
I feel like they that's what they do. They get some type of like leverage, and then that's what they threaten you with.
Yeah. So the best thing that ever happened for me was that I met up with the former supply, and because that's all we are, we're just supply. I met up with her, and we had a little surprise party with him and called him out on everything that was happening.
Wow.
And she validated everything that I had been through. And I was able to validate that for her also. But I still ended up going back 2 more times.
Wow.
So it's like that adrenaline. And it's the same thing in that Big Little Lies after he beats the crap out of her, and then there's this hot sex scene. That's very real. It is the adrenaline that's coursing through your veins. And then the reward is pleasure. So it doesn't matter how they manipulate it. They still manage, whether it's psychological or physical, there's always, the reward is always sex. They're very sexual focused, whether they're withholding it or that's all they want. So it's, you know, we could go on forever.
Yeah, I mean, but this is good because, like, most people think, like, oh, this person's being an asshole, this person's this or that, and they don't realize that this is actually something that's wrong, and this is not something that's normal, but for them, it's something that they experience as a child, not in the same concept, but the same, I guess, feeling at the end of the day, and they accept it because it's something that's comfortable for them. So, like, if a person seems to be in this relationship, and this person keeps dragging them back into this relationship, and they can't seem to get out, like, what are, like, the tips? I mean, first of all, if you guys are hearing this, call Trish. She's going to give us her information at the end of the show. But, like, what are tips that they can just even get to the realization that it's not really love, that it's something that's not right?
Yeah, it is not right. And this is, so what you can do, first of all, you've got to find somebody that you can talk to. And not everybody's going to understand what you have to say. So you've got to be very particular about who you choose to confide in. But it's, when you finally realize that this is abuse and it isn't love, that's your first step. And then because that's the biggest thing is just the realization in itself. And then you've got to, you can sit there and try and put a plan into place to leave. But if you put a plan into place to leave, it's never going to happen when you want it to or how you want it to. But once you decide that it's time for you to go, the universe is going to conspire and get wheels in motion for you. But you've got to be able to document things, protect yourself. You've got to remain safe. One of the biggest tools I give to anybody who's leaving a narcissist or has to maintain modified contact because there's children involved is called the gray rock method. And the gray rock method is as exciting as it sounds. It's like a gray rock in a bed of diamonds and crystals and gems. It is the most boring rock in the bed. So the method itself requires you to be as boring and as detached emotionally as you possibly can when dealing with the narcissist. Towards the end, when I was leaving, I didn't even realize that this was what I was doing. I was just instinctually calling upon this to save myself. And so I was, whenever he would come into the room and he would start talking to me, I'd look at my phone and be on social media or be watching TV. And my responses to him were non-emotional. So they're high and dry. It's like, yep, matter of fact. What's for dinner? I don't know, whatever is for dinner. Or they'll try and engage you in conversation, but your practice is to remain boring. So don't go and do the things that you guys always used to do. So if you go out and, like, weekends for us, the date night was, we're going to go out, we're going to get drunk, we're going to have sex, and that's date night. Well, I just became disinterested. So when you start showing, the gray rock method is becoming disinterested and becoming unavailable to the narcissist. And if you can't provide that supply to them, they're going to get it somewhere else. So even though I was gray rocking him and we were still living in the same house, he was going elsewhere to get what he needed because I couldn't provide that energetic supply for him.
Yeah, so you basically had checked out already. And basically, like, at this point, you didn't care if he was, with someone else or whatever. You just were happy that it wasn't you.
To stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was happy and I was very happy that it wasn't me because I knew that I had to leave. I knew I was going to go. So, pardon me, gray rocking is huge when you're getting ready to leave a narcissist. They're still going to engage you. They're still going to get you in love bombing and gaslighting because that's what they do. But your practice is to maintain that level of being uninterested.
Yeah.
Leaving a narcissist is not an easy thing. It is one of the hardest things that you'll ever do. But you've got to want it more than you've got to want to stay in the pain. You've got to want to leave more than you want to stay and be miserable.
Yeah. I always say you're born alone and you die alone. It's like you have this life to make it what you want. Like, why are you going to let some other individual dictate your happiness? It just doesn't work.
Yes. And that's what happens is they dictate everything. It's not your life when you're with a narcissist. You're just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in my driveway one day going, if I want to live the life that I've always dreamed, it's never going to happen with this man in my world.
And having, and just, I think that is that's the number one thing, like making that realization and then saying, okay, what do I need to do for myself to get me out of this situation, and then following through.
Exactly.
So people out there that are listening to this, that are in these type of relationships, you know what it is? It's like most people, they don't want to be alone. They fear being alone. And I always say the path to enlightenment is solitude. Solitude is the path to enlightenment because you get to really see all your, because everybody has trauma, like you said, and we're all dealing with things, and just really get to know yourself. Whether you're not doing anything for months or you're just home, and sometimes people they end up dating people just because they're bored, and I was bored, and because you were bored, then all these things transpired after it, and you're like in this shitty situation right now that you can't get out of. like that doesn't make any sense. But when you're in it, you know, it's just emotions. And I think the most important thing is really to dive deep inside you and see why you are needing this type of relationship, right?
Yeah. And that's really what it is. Otherwise, every time you get distracted with food, drugs, alcohol, clubbing, shopping, eating, you're just putting a Band-Aid over a gaping wound.
Yeah. You're just like shoving it down, but that basically shit's going to come up eventually.
Yep.
That Band-Aid is not going to hold anymore, and you're going to have to face it. So it's like, rather face it sooner than later, because then that's more shit that you have to clean up, right?
Well, and the work I do we don't have to go back to the pain. We've got it, because just before we wrap up here, I know we're getting short for time, but our body doesn't know the difference between a memory. Our brain and our body doesn't know the difference between a memory or the present moment. So every time we go back into that negative experience, our body chemistry is reliving that as though it actually happened. So I don't have to take you all the way back to those wounds to heal them. We work on, let's heal this energy from where we are right now.
Yeah. It's so crazy. You know, I'm actually going to give a girl that I know, I recently reconnected with her, and I warned her about some guy, and she didn't listen, of course, at the beginning, and she went through some shit, like being tied up in the back of a trunk, and the guy is like facing a long time in jail. And I told her and warned her about this guy, and I just recently connected with her. And you know what? I'm going to give her your information to reach out to you, because I think she really needs it. Because today she texted me and said she had a really bad dream, and she was replaying the whole scenario, what had happened to her. And it was I know the type of person, because it took me only a month and a half to realize that this person was like this. And I was like, oh, I'm out, you know? And most people, it takes them longer to realize this, if at all they realize it, where they can end up dead, or, you know, God forbid, you know, like, it's just, you just never know. And it's better to get help. So, Trish, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving some light on this and awareness. And if people are dealing with this type of thing, and where can they reach you? Give your Instagram, your social media stuff, where people can reach you, email, website, all your information.
Yeah, my company is Badass Broad Coaching Company. The website is broadcasm.com. And you can find me on Instagram as Narcolepsy, and it's at NARCZZZ.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Those are the two places you can find me. Those are the two places you will always find me. Facebook, not so much. I'm still there. It's still Badass Broad Coaching Company, but those are the two: broadcasms.com and Narcs on Instagram.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show and shedding some light. And you're always welcome to come on. And if you have a topic that you want to talk about, I feel like this topic is always, there's so much more to talk about. And
there really is.
Yeah. If anyone is going through this, please give her a call, reach out, because sometimes if you do end up telling a friend, because sometimes people are embarrassed or afraid to tell family members or a friend, but they haven't experienced this, so they may not know. It's always good, if you want to heal from someone that has gone through it and has been able to heal, and educate others in how to heal.
Well, today we talked mostly about the narcissist. There's a whole other aspect of things when you're a survivor that happen to you physically, mentally, and emotionally. That is a whole other show in itself.
Okay, so awesome. Yes, please. I'll definitely reach out to you sooner than later about that, so we can schedule in. So anyone that's listening to this, please, if you're going through this, there's no reason to go through this. Reach out to Trish, get some help, and
Fall back off the selfies.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Vida.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure to meet you, Dale.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Have a
Very
good day. Thank you
enlightening.
so much for calling, and I'll definitely call you, and we can coordinate the next one.
Awesome. Much love to you both.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.